Ekta, why does heartbreak feel like death?
After going through like a deep heartbreak, they started experiencing a lot of physical symptoms. Despite going through many medical tests, they couldn't figure out there was no physical cause to it.
I do feel that breakups and divorces can be sometimes worse than death.
So I'm not feeling right. I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling upset with what's happening in my life. And if I'm going to keep suppressing this or put it under the carpet, there will come a time it will literally blast and come out as a volcano.
Do you think coping with a heartbreak is gender specific?
It completely depends. Women being way more emotional creature, they always seek support groups. Could be friends, family. But when it comes to men, they actually seek support through their work.
Do you think romanticizing a heartbreak is also a way of coping with a heartbreak?
Today's pop culture is romanticizing not just heartbreak, romanticizing not having a healthy relationship. They are. For example, Kabir Singh. People have romanticized that it's okay if a man hits me. In the end, we come back together.
Meri love lingo, love lingo, love lingo. Sunny meri tu love lingo.
Hi, this is Jess Sagu.
Hi, this is Ursula Qureshi, and on today's topic on Love Lingo, we are discussing why does heartbreak feel like death, and in front of us we have a very special guest. Welcome Ekta Dixit. And Ekta is a relationship coach, and she has excavated more hearts than we can even imagine. Ekta, why does heartbreak feel like death? And has your heart ever been broken? Because you've excavated so many hearts, we would love to know your take on this.
So thank you so much, first of all, for introducing me and having me on this show. Of course, I don't know about my heart being broken, which of course they've been like multiple times, but I've broken many hearts.
Well, yeah.
And I think I don't mind continuing this streak, by the way.
Oh, wow.
For
But
the
having
better.
said that, I think heartbreak feels like death for many reasons, because people forget to understand that when we talk about love, when we talk about heartbreak, there's so much more, not just emotional, but physical as well.
Absolutely. The
And-
anatomy of a broken heart.
Yeah.
Like, what really happens when your heart is broken?
You know, one of the reasons people use heart aches and heart pains is because there's a part of our brain that's called anterior cingulate,
Okay.
which is responsible for physical aches and pains. It
Okay.
lights up whenever you experience some kind of physical pain. And the same part of our brain lights up
Right.
whenever we go through a breakup,
Wow.
whenever we go through some kind of an emotional turmoil. So, which is why one of the reasons why we use heartaches. It isn't aching, right? But it feels like an ache. It doesn't feel like your heart is broken into pieces. You know, when we talk about heart being heartbroken, it has a physical connotation to it. But this is what happens. It's so biological, and which is why you feel that I'm literally experiencing palpitation, because there are certain, of course, play of your hormones that
Right.
that takes place. It's the lower degree of oxytocin and serotonin, which are responsible to make you feel good about your life, about your relationships, about overall well-being, right?
Yeah.
There is a high level of cortisol. Cortisol is something that's responsible.
Stress hormone.
Yes, it's a stress hormone.
Right.
That's also responsible for your flight and fight.
Yeah.
So whenever there's a crisis right in front of you, you feel that, oh, either I have to fight through it or I have to flight. And because of the high rise in cortisol levels, you feel that there is racing heartbeat, there's palpitation, there's aches, there's pain in the body. And you know, when you go to do these MRIs and CT scans, because this has happened with many of my cases.
Right.
So after going through like a deep heartbreak, they started experiencing a lot of physical symptoms, physical issues. And despite going through many medical tests, they couldn't figure out there was no physical cause to it. It was more emotional, because when you go through something emotionally, when you're completely shattered emotionally, it basically stores in your body in the form of toxins, which is not
Right.
seen in the MRIs and CT scans, but they're there. And which is why heartbreaks do have some kind of a physical, you know,
Repercussion, of,
Repercussion.
like which
Ramifications.
yeah, which mimics like a heart attack. I could say that, but the symptoms do resonate with what we're going through when we go through a heartbreak, and that's why we feel like, oh my god, I feel like I'm dying.
yeah.
And I do feel that breakups and divorces can be sometimes worse than death.
Yeah.
It's death of a relationship, a metaphorical death. There was someone who was an integral part of your life. Yeah, they almost imprint themselves in spaces, right? So they're gone, but they still find themselves. You find them in those spaces, like you said, comfort, and there is a sense of codependency, and everything becomes about that one person. And I also feel that social rejection and physical pain are rooted in the same region of the brain.
But I'm sorry to cut you. When you say codependency, it has a negative connotation sometimes, because codependency simply means that there are two people who are completely dependent on each other. So even one goes away, the other one is absolutely shattered, doesn't know what to do with life.
That's why the community would.
That's why you need to be interdependent, which means you're independent as individuals, but when you come together, you make each other better.
As Marcel Proust said, love is reciprocal torture, a state of privileged suffering. Two people are involved, right? Then suddenly one of them eliminates themselves or gets eliminated, whatever that is. Now you're dealing with your emotions alone. Is that also a part of, getting over someone?
Yeah. So first thing that people do is they avoid their emotions. And it has its own repercussions that you have to deal with it. Because at one point, it's going to actually, because if you're constantly piling up your emotions that you're experiencing and which are surfacing right now, if I'm not feeling right, I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling upset with what's happening in my life. And if I'm going to keep suppressing this or put it under the carpet, there will come a time it will literally blast and come out as a volcano.
Combust.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And which is why it's important to sit with your emotions, is to why you're experiencing what you're experiencing right now. Which is why it's imperative to, people talk about journaling is a great way to kind of deal with
Cathartic. It's a cathartic exercise.
But it can go wrong. Constantly journaling. Your journaling can become a self-critical technique as well.
That's a very important point.
Self-loathing also.
Self-loathing.
Self-loathing, because why did this happen to me? Why this happened? You constantly focusing so much or latching on to why this happened to me, or this should have been in a different way, or this could have been ended in a different way.
I actually never thought of it like
I
that,
never
but
thought
I
of it
did
like that.
because I try and practice journaling.
Yeah.
And I am not consistent with that, and I'm working on it. But I did realize that sometimes journaling can make you create a story that you want to believe. And that's your perspective. And you are the writer of that episode in that day. And you're looking at it from that perspective. And maybe it's kind of opening you up. It has its perks. But it also is somewhere you deceiving yourself. Or maybe just becoming across like somebody who's really like had a bad day, or like the poor me. I don't know. It is very, I understand the thin lines here that you're talking about.
So what happens is, one of the reasons why we journal is because we want to improve ourselves or know ourselves much better, right? That's why we journal. It's not just cathartic, but even there are certain specific research and studies that have proved that when you write, it is attached with a part of your brain that releases your emotion.
Therapy. Free
Yes.
therapy, right?
It's-
Kind of.
But I think therapy is not the word that I would use.
Okay.
Therapy is like one-on-one. I think it's a deep work.
Mhm.
What happens with journaling is when you write down, I think one of the way why you do journaling is to improve yourself, to get better, to know yourself better. But there was this quote that I came across which says that sometimes, and oftentimes, self-improvement can lead to self-criticism, and self-criticism can lead to self-misery. Where you become and feel that you're so miserable in life.
Yeah, and self-pity. That also,
Self-pity.
right? Yeah.
So it's because you feel you're so miserable in your life. Look, everyone's doing so well. Social media tries to put things in a very sugar-coated way, and we tend to take things on its face value. So we end up not knowing that we have to read between the lines as well. There are things which are what we see on social media is like a part of the iceberg, the tip of the iceberg, but there are so many things which are still hidden.
True.
And people don't see that. That's what happens with heartbreaks also. When someone goes through a heartbreak and instantly opens social media, the first thing that there is, they look at their friends, couples going out, holidaying, have a great time together. And then they're like, listen, I'm down and downs right now. What do I do?
And in such a scenario, how does one recover from a heartbreak?
But to this point, was it easier? I'm just curious to know. Was it easier to forget someone 50 years ago as opposed to the day and age we are in now? Because, hey, you open up how can you live without your phone? Or is that even a choice when you're heartbroken? Because, hey, you open up social media and there they are. And they're going.
Stop them, or suddenly you will see a picture with a comment.
Even if you don't, yeah. So how do you deal with things like that? How does one get over this phenomenon?
So earlier, coming back to your context, was it easier to forget someone? Let's also understand the way we used to meet someone earlier, like 50 years ago, was of course via a mutual connection.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So somewhere we still had it.
Got it.
Right. Whether in weddings or family functions or anything, or even if that someone stayed in the neighborhood or had a connection in the neighborhood, you would just randomly see that person right across the street. You would come across. So I don't think there was any such way where you could literally avoid this person. So when back then we did have, I think today it's become all the more easier to kind of become, or maybe come across this person because of social media.
Yeah.
It's the most handiest thing. Going back then, how often do you used to go out and bump into your ex? Rare, right?
Right.
Now it's easier because you open your Instagram and it's there, which is why setting clear boundaries is very important. People talk about closure, that, you need to have closure. You need to have a specific boundary with this person that, listen, let's just have a no contact rule. Let's not connect. Let's not be on social media for each other, or do whatever it takes to kind of not, it's like out of sight, out of mind kind of a thing.
Right.
But it doesn't always work. So there are certain studies that says that it takes about 1 month to about 7 years for someone to forget someone.
Wow. Where am I? I'm just thinking, where do I compartmentalize my
And usually
heartbreaks?
said if you want to get over the emotions that you have for someone, it takes about 7 years.
When you say you're hurt as a result of being rejected by someone, you're not just leaning on a metaphor. And as far as your brain is concerned, you are feeling pain, right? And that pain is as bad as a stab wound. Talking about pain, when there is pain, there is grief. And how does one recover from that? There's a really nice quote by Vicky Harrison. She's an author, and this is how she defines grief. It's beautiful. Grief is like the ocean, on the wave, ebbing and flowing. Sometimes the water is calm and sometimes the water is overflowing or overwhelming. All you can do is learn to swim.
Yeah. And I love this quote, by the way. Right so. Because there comes a time when you feel you're absolutely over it, but then you feel the surge of emotions out of nowhere. That's the whole, I think, process of grieving over a loss of a loved one. When we say loss of loved one, it doesn't only have to be breakup. It could be in a different form also. Like a physical death of a loved one also. And grief, when we talk about grief can take place in different forms, right? When we say grief, especially after heartbreak, every single person has to, no matter how much you want to deny, but every single person goes through the 5 stages of grief, and we know the 5 stages of grief. The first is denial. Whenever you go through a breakup, the first thing that you tell yourself, this hasn't happened. And then you don't know how to deal with this because your mind does not want to accept this. Why? Because anatomy of a brain, that whenever a new piece of information that comes to you, आपको accept ही नहीं करनी है. You don't want to accept it saying that, oh, this has happened. Why? Because it's a new piece of information.
Right. And your heart is ruling over your mind in this phase especially.
Yes. where you're still latching on to the good parts of a person,
Right.
the imaginary part of a person, that things could have been different. Because somewhere, let's be honest, we all latch on to the good parts of what if. What if ye hota to? What if ye chal jata to?
On date.
So the first thing that happens to us is we go through denial that, oh, this hasn't happened, right? And once you understand this, you move on to the second state, which is anger. Like, you ask yourself, or you ask God. That's when you seek out answers from everyone. Why am I going through this? Why me? This why me phase comes here. That's the second stage of grief. Then comes the third is bargaining, right? It's a weird stage when we bargain with our exes कि यार कुछ तो कर लो, जैसे सब्जी मंडी में जाते भैया ₹2 कर लो please.
Negotiations.
That's what you do. You negotiate. You try and negotiate with your partner, where you try and figure out कि जो भी हो सकता है, let's find a midway. But it's too late to kind of repair the damages, right? This is also the time when you drunk and dial your ex.
Wow.
When there's a late night text. Oh, by there's something else also. जहाँ पे बहुत लोग आज की जेंजीज बहुत करती है, वो टेक्स्ट भेज देती है, फिर डिलीट द मैसेज कर देती है, डिलीट फॉर एवरीवन. तो सामने वाले को पता चलता है कि अच्छा एक नज मिल गई है that oh she's texted me.
अच्छा,
Or
See the
he's texted
games
me.
you play.
Mind games.
That's manipulation. There are many ways a person bargains, and only reason why they bargain is because कि कहीं ना कहीं एक फिर से वो मुझे comfort चाहिए. Let me latch on to it. Because I don't know how do I enter an unknown zone. क्योंकि ये मेरे लिए known है. And this is when a lot of people fall for sunk cost fallacy. You know what's that?
Of course.
Sunk cost fallacy is
Please
something.
enlighten me.
Sunk cost basically means that you keep investing your time, energy, resources into this, and this can be in context with your business also. It can be business or relationship. And I see a lot of people, they keep investing in a relationship on the basis of कितने साल तक हम साथ रहे हैं.
That's why probably
And based on your past, the time, energy that you've invested in that, you continue to do so, even if you've incurred loss.
मेरे ख्याल से पुराने जमाने में यही तो कहते थे यार इतने सालों की रिलेशनशिप क्यों छोड़ रहे हो यार.
Correct. हो जाएगा, ठीक हो जाएगा.
Yeah.
So what happens?
Have a baby. हो जाए. Have another baby.
But that's, yeah.
यही तो
Have another baby.
अच्छा एक तो हो गया है, 5-7 भी हो गए, 8वां कर लो और
तो भी ठीक हो जाएगा.
सब ठीक है.
Yeah. But that's just not the thing. I see a lot of people, even today, Gen Zs also, कि यार 4 साल से साथ में है. I think हो जाएगा, ठीक हो जाएगा. But then they don't realize that if that relationship hasn't really evolved over a period of time or made you a better person or did not help you add value to your life, or they've not added value to your life, and likewise, it's important to take a call. Don't make a decision to stick by only because you've been together for X number of years. That's sunk cost fallacy. It's a fallacy. It's a faulty mentality of your brain, of your mind.
Right.
So that's when the late night texts, the drunk dials and everything possible, asking the friend, अच्छा उसको just generally कभी बातों बातों में पूछ ले, तो it will be like a nudge, ताकि वो थोड़ा revive हो जाए, right?
Right.
और सैड सॉन्ग्स सुनने का फिर रात भर.
Thanks
वो-
to Arijit songs though.
कौन सा अरिजीत थे? अच्छा वाह.
So that's one thing. Bargaining के बाद जब आप bargaining करके थक जाते हो, then you're like, listen, I'm done bargaining with this person. That's when actually, this is the moment when either you make it or break it. This is the moment when you either slip into depression. That's the 4th stage of grief. Where you slip into depression, as in where you literally let the fact sink in. When you're like, this has happened with me.
And this is the end.
And this is the void.
Wow.
And this is the end. And I don't know what to do with my life. And suddenly you have this whole existential crisis that you're experiencing in your life. And you don't know what to do about it. It's during this phase, if you become more mindful, you become aware of what's happening to you, that's when you have a sense of community who helps you become better. That's when you go on to your 5th stage, which is acceptance. So when you radically accept कि अच्छा, this is over. There is no resentment towards this person or against me. I have to accept that both of us were absolutely 2 different people. Maybe we did not feel aligned at certain stages of our life, which is why we decided to part ways. This is when acceptance starts playing role. And once you reach this stage, this is when you begin to heal. That's when you've entered the process of healing. Not that you healed yourself.
Right.
Now you've entered the process of healing, which means now when you start focusing on yourself, your self-care, you provide yourself a space, a safe space for yourself. That's when you become better.
All you beautiful people out there who get easily offended, please don't. We are not saying that a heartbreak is the end of life. We're not saying that heartbreak is death. We are simply stating a fact that a lot of us go through heartbreaks, and a lot of us have felt like this is the end of us, and we feel like that we're going to die, but we survive. And I understand that there are bigger problems in this world, but hey, a heart is a part of our body. So it's okay to be concerned about it and to take care of it and to become more self-aware that, listen, heartbreak may feel like death, but it's not death.
I have a question. Do you think coping with a heartbreak is gender specific?
Yes, and no both. It completely depends on the individualistic approach. देखो जब breakup को cope करने की बात आती है, your coping style actually goes back to what you've been taught as a child. So as a child, we all have our own attachment styles, right?
Right.
The way we attach ourselves to relationship and to people. Someone who comes from, an anxious attachment style, someone who's too anxious when it comes to relationship. So for person who has this style will always have jitters, doesn't know how to cope with breakup, will always seek comfort, might also seek comfort in rebound relationships, some or the other way. But someone who is more comfortable in his or her style, on the way that he's operated or she's operated in her life, maybe she will be more mindful, he'll be more mindful about approaching that relationship, that heartbreak. So when we talk about being gender specific, it completely depends. But there are few things which are traditional in nature. Women being way more emotional creature, they always seek support groups. Could be friends, family, getting comfort by expressing their emotions, their needs, via people, right, with their near dear ones. But when it comes to men, they actually seek support through their work. They literally deviate their whole energy and focus on fulfilling their purpose, their work, because that gives them a sense where, like, they've gained some sense of control. In the end, men actually want some control. That's the point. Whether it's control over their life or situation or someone else. What happens is when they're going through a heartbreak, they want to literally sit with themselves and evaluate what to do with life and let me focus on work. So they deviate the entire energy on the professional front.
So it's very pragmatic.
It's very bad.
Here's another question. Do you think romanticizing a heartbreak is also a way of coping with a heartbreak?
I see today's pop culture is romanticizing not just heartbreak, romanticizing trust issues, romanticizing situationships, romanticizing not having a healthy relationship. They are. If we go back to Bollywood for that matter, so we have this Bollywood film, लड़का लड़की माँ बाप नहीं मान रहे हैं, घर में ये problems हैं, दोनों के बीच में problems है. Somewhere the person who was watching that film starts romanticizing that this is normal.
Oh.
It starts romanticizing कि even if there's a tiff between both of us, which is like, when I'm saying tiff हर couple में होता है, I'm talking about toxic tiff. Okay. For example, Kabir Singh.
Oh. I haven't seen it, but I've heard.
So people have romanticized that it's okay if a man hits me. In the end, we come back together. People are romantic. So pop culture is actually romanticizing these things. They're romanticizing breakups. But if anything, instead of romanticizing, you're supposed to sit with yourself and go through the arrays of emotions when you're going through a breakup. You tell yourself that it's okay, I'm going through this. Instead of me going and seeking comfort on social media, putting those पता है वो कोट्स वोट्स डाल देंगे स्टोरी पे, ओ हार्ट ब्रेक वाला ये हो रहा है वो हो रहा है, सैड वाले पिक्चर विद सैड वाला कैप्शन डाल देंगे. That's actually seeking comfort. So one of the way we also romanticize is because we think that this is normal.
Do you think a rebound relationship is the way to go as soon as you've had a breakup? Do you think that in any capacity is going to help you heal, or it backfires? Please tell us.
Rebound relationship, I think in many contexts it's misconstrued. I wouldn't really suggest rebound relationships because somewhere we do seek rebound out of comfort, out of the fear of being left out of loneliness, right? So बहुत बार because you want someone to validate you and your emotions, that's when you get into a rebound relationship. Mostly it's like you're trying to seek some emotional comfort through someone, right? Again, like I said, even rebound relationships are more like a double-edged sword. Reason because I have seen people or couples who were a rebound and they're happily married for years.
Oh.
So I will not use the term rebound. I would rather say that when you meet someone who's way more aligned, देखो आप एक relationship से बाहर निकले and in some time you found someone. Both of you know where you both are coming from. You both know what are your quirks and what are your trigger points. जब आप एक दूसरे को समझ जाते हो तो those rebound relationships doesn't necessarily need to be toxic, doesn't need to be an escape from your pain. If anything, you both learn to comfort each other and you become companions for the rest of your life.
When you do advise someone to maintain the no contact rule in your experience and expertise, how often do they break that rule?
Initially, every single day. Later, after a while, when they think at least one person who becomes all the more firm, or when one person basically comes across कि अच्छा ये तो move on हो रही है या हो रहा है, but then it gives you a sense of reality कि when this person is moving on तो मैं भी तो सीख लूँ ना, तब I think out of resentment you will start to move. It's a different story. So how many times does someone actually break the rule? Completely depends. If you're someone who's firm enough, you've always had firm boundaries, you will not. Depends on your degree of comfort, degree of attachment, degree of the strength of your relationship. Completely, it's on that. कि आप कितना break करोगे, आपका no contact rule. But it's usually said for first 7 months, you have to have a no contact.
Wow. But I still feel a rebound relationship is a reactionary relationship, which is inspired by the unhealed wounds of our previous relationship. But having said that, in my personal capacity, I think it does help. It, like you said, it differs from
If
individual.
you're doing it for wrong reasons, then
Or the right
no.
reasons.
But if you're doing it for right reasons,
Yeah.
even after a specific time, now that you found someone, or even if it's immediate, communicate with the person that you are with right now. Tell them that you just experienced breakup. You're going through something which is creating this turbulence inside of you, which means that the other person knows where you're coming from and what do you bring to the table.
Wow. So you have to be brutally honest too.
You have to. Otherwise, what if you know that it's a rebound for you because you're seeking comfort? You're trying to fill the void, but this other person actually gets emotionally attached to you.
True.
Then, in this case, it's a loss for the other person because somewhere this person has just given everything or invested so much in that relationship. Which is why communicating it clearly, having like an open conversation, an honest conversation, having the hard conversation in a long run or in a short run is actually better.
On Love Lingo, Ekta, how can we be very conscientious when we decide to put an end to a relationship?
I think the moment you realize that no matter how much of an effort that you are willing to put or you're putting in a relationship, it's still not getting better, which also means that you as two individuals not getting better but bitter in the process and becoming more resentful against each other, that's the time to end the relationship. when you think you're not getting any better than this. You've taken every single help that's possible. चाहे वो आप जो आज की जनरेशन करती है, seeking friends support or seeking professionals support. After all of this, if you think you're still not able to move past the problems in the relationship, now you think कि आपके relationship में there are more negative interactions as opposed to the positive interactions. And you usually said in a relationship, for a healthy relationship, for a good relationship, you need to have a ratio of 3:2, which means for every 2 negative interactions, you need to have 3 positive interactions. And if you think the roles are reversed or the ratio has reversed, you can still work on it. If you think the ratio is reversed so much where it's become now 4:1, and now there comes a point where you realize that अब तो positive side दिख ही नहीं रही है, right? That's when it's time for you to end the relationship. But of course, there are ways how you can become more aware of it, is by sitting with yourself and asking yourself, why did you end a relationship at first place? Because sometimes we go through, while we're going through those stages of grief, we end up begging the other person, please wapas aa jao, yeah, let's just figure things out, or let's do something about it and we'll make it work. While you are in the process of begging someone to get back together, you have to sit with yourself and remind yourself that what was the reason you decided to part ways. You have to be conscious enough to know that whatever chosen or whatever decision that we've made, that's out of our, there was a last resort, right? That you've decided to move out of it because now nothing is working. We don't see future together. We don't see growth together. Where we see that manipulation is more. Blame games are taking place. When you think that there's so much of guilt trip in a relationship that you cannot find or make this person a safe space anymore. And you both are not each other's safe space. That's the time.
That's very well put. They're not each other's safe space. I like that.
And where you can't be vulnerable enough for each, with each other. That's when you are supposed to end it. But sometimes, despite ending the relationship, you keep asking whether I've made a right choice or no. Should I go back or no? That's when you have to make sure that you go back to your roots. When I say roots, it simply means going back to the reason behind it. Right? Reason behind that we did not work out because of these reasons. Because over a period of time, and that's a play of your brain, of your mind, that over a period of time, your brain thinks of all the good things. That's what happens when you're away from the person, right? When you're away from it, you look at it from an angle jahan pe you think that, oh, ye to acha tha, ye bhi acha tha, ye bhi acha tha. Until you go back again and you realize, oh, it's a perky situation again.
Right.
So things look good. जब कहते हैं ना कि दूर से देखो तभी अच्छा लगता है. But जब आप फिर से पास चले गए, फिर से the patterns repeat. Make sure that you always stay in touch with your reasons for not being together. That's how you will stop begging the person कि यार figure out कर लेते हैं. क्योंकि आपको पता है कि आप अगर beg कर रहे हो ना, in the end you are actually just diving literally deep into losses. More and more, where you're not helping yourself grow, but you're just getting worse in the process.
So I think just being a little more self-aware and understanding the scenario, the situation, and with a sense of maturity, and then addressing the elephant.
I think being a spectator and out of your own life kind of helps,
it's
right?
Like just ask yourself, what was the reason we actually parted ways? Just that. Why did we part ways? And if you've tried multiple times in the process, कि अच्छा ये भी किया, ये भी किया, ये भी किया, ये भी किया, फिर भी नहीं चला, then you know that this is the end for, right? Then you don't have to resort to the good times and all of that, because your mind goes back to it. And your mind will miss the person, what they said, how they behaved, how they conducted themselves in certain situations, how they made you feel in a certain way, the things that they did for you. But then gradually all the unreasonable or unhealthy or toxic behavior that was being portrayed, your mind will overlook those.
Got it.
That's the point.
Great.
And it's only because we seek comfort.
Comfort is at the top of our hierarchy.
Which is why you have to become your own comfort space. You have to
That
become
is-
your safe
That is
space.
very well put.
That's some word.
That is some amazing words there, right there.
You have to become your safe space. Such that I'm not saying relationships are the most beautiful thing on earth. When I talk about relationships overall. Of course, intimate relationships, because you get to be with someone, share your nitty-gritties, and there's a beauty in loving someone so much.
Of course.
Right? And being loved by the person.
Right.
So there's beauty in relationships, but knowing how to pick one, how much to give the power to your emotions, knowing that not letting something else drive me, not letting relationship define me as an individual. I'm an individual which is made up of many spheres of my life. My physical health, how do I look at myself, my personal growth, my relationships, my finances, how do I conduct myself at workspace, my social life,
work life,
all of that.
everything.
All of that. So I'm made up of different spheres of my life.
And not
So-
just defining yourself
Out
by
of relationship.
one thing, and that is my relationship.
And that's what people do today.
Yeah.
Because you went through a breakup right now, and because you don't have a relationship, life does not end there. You have other spheres to focus on.
Absolutely. And life is not just about a relationship, because ultimately,
you don't have to shut yourself
Yeah.
also. You don't have to shut yourself from receiving love. Give it time.
yeah.
And things are going to be
Yeah.
back.
Ekta, before we wrap up, here's a question for you. Is there a book that you lean on that has shaped your childhood and your perspective along the years that you would like to share with us?
I think when I talk about books, there are many, but the book that really shaped my perspective, and I think which changed me or made me the person I am today, has to be The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. I don't. There's something about that book, because when people ask me, okay, why do you think that it's one of the best books? Because not because it's got a great storyline, but one thing that I learned from that book was the things that you're seeking outside is within.
I love that book too.
And it's my favorite book. And I think all of us, we try to seek that comfort, that love, that companionship outside. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong. What you try to seek outside is so much inside of you. And all you need to do is just get over the dust and let the light within you illuminate. Of course, there are many books that that has taught me or made me the person I am today. Whether it's to do with the book called Attached,
Okay.
that teaches about attachment styles, how do you operate yourself in relationships. There are many different books, but I think Alchemist will always stay close to me.
So the book that has impact is going to be added in our library.
Wow.
It's through our foundation, Evolve, Every Voice on Love. And we want to have an impact on underprivileged children and help them and foster them through reading and facilitating their imagination. So we're going to make a couple of copies of your recommendation, and we would like these children to have the privilege of reading and learning, just like you have picked something from these books. We really hope that children also get this chance, and it will shape their perspective and their personalities.
It's a
along the way.
great cause, and I think what I've learned, I'm sure it has made me to who I am today.
Wow.
And it will definitely shape them into a great, I think, individuals who will understand themselves better before understanding others.
Wow.
Brilliant, Ekta.
Brilliant.
Thank you
Brilliant
so
takeaway.
much
Brilliant.
for sharing your insights and your expertise with us on Love Lingo.
Thank you so much for having
Thank
me.
you.
I think we spoke about so many things in detail that people don't often want to tap into, about heartbreaks, about how to operate when you're going through a heartbreak. And I think we literally, dismantled the whole thing And there's much more to come.
Thank you for being here with us. So please follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and wherever you plug in and listen. Also, do not forget to subscribe and like us on YouTube channel, Love Lingo, the podcast. Please do follow Ben for sure, and please follow Ekta. And yes, please do that. Thank you. And Kamani, where is your mic? Oh, sorry.
Okay, let me do that for them. So don't forget to follow me on Instagram, and don't forget to follow them on Instagram, because for all the insightful videos, for all the bites, for if you really want to have like a mindful life, mindful relationships, don't forget to follow us.
Also, if your heart has been broken very recently, she's the go-to person. Irshad.
ये न थी हमारी किस्मत के विसाल यार होता, ये न थी हमारी किस्मत के विसाल यार होता, अगर और जीते रहते यही इंतजार होता. Thank you. I learned standard library.
Hot takeaway.
Cute takeaway. Okay, guys. Good.
ढूंढे राबता, दुनिया कहती हम अलग है, हमको इससे क्या, हम है राही प्यार के ढूंढे रहनुमा, पल में जी के देख ले तू कल का क्या पता, लाए थे